Shalom, family in Messiah Yeshua. Shalom to the worldwide YouTube and social media community. This is your beloved brother ShaulYisrael, coming back again with another Yahweh-inspired message. I'll be reading on this day, according to the scriptures, the first day of the week. I'll be reading from the book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 16, starting at verse 1. I'll be reading from chapter 16 of 1 Corinthians, chapter 1. I'll be reading from 1 Corinthians, chapter 16, verse 1. 1 Corinthians, chapter 16, verse 1. And I read, Now concerning the collection for the saints, as I have given order to the assemblies of Corinth, even so do you. Upon the first day of the week, let every one of you lay by him in store, and Yahweh has prospered him, that there be no gatherings when I come. Turn to 2 Corinthians chapter 9 and verse 6. But this I say, he which sows sparingly shall reap also sparingly, and he that which sows bountifully shall reap also bountifully. Every man according as he purposes in his heart, so let him give, not grudgingly or of necessity, for Yahweh loves a cheerful giver. I read those two passages to say this. Yahweh's means for the assembly to be financed or supported under the renewed covenant is by means of liberality. What is liberality? Liberality is Yahweh-led giving, wherein the particular person gives as he chooses in his heart, and he's not giving out of necessity nor grudgingly, but he's giving because he has first love for Yahweh and love for the people of Yahweh. That's liberality. Tithes and offerings was connected to the Levitical priesthood. And being that the priesthood was transferred from Levi to Yeshua, because Yeshua is a priest after the order of Melchizedek, we are to give liberally. Give as Yahweh has prospered us. And that in that manner of giving, we are to judge ourselves as to how Yahweh has prospered us. If Yahweh has prospered us much, we're to give much. If Yahweh has prospered us little, we'll give little. But we're not to give grudgingly or out of necessity. The purpose of liberality is to finance the assembly, the ministry, to support the ministry, to support the less fortunate, which are widows, the orphan, and the poor. Again, Yahweh's assembly is financed by means of liberality. As is written in 1 Corinthians chapter 16. Verse 1. Now concerning the collection for the saints, and I have given order to the assemblies of Galatia, even so do you. Upon the first day of the week, let every one of you lay by him in store, as Yahweh has prospered him, that there be no gathering when I come. The first part of liberality, or liberal giving, or voluntary giving, is one must give as Yahweh has prospered you. As I said before, if Yahweh has prospered you much, you give much. If Yahweh prosper you little, you give little. You're to judge yourself as to how much to give and how often to give. Turn to 2 Corinthians chapter 9 and verse 9. But this I say, he was sow sparingly, shall reap also sparingly. And he was sow bountifully, shall reap also bountifully. So the liberality is governed by the law of sowing and reaping. You give bountifully, you will reap bountifully. If you give sparingly, you will reap sparingly. Verse 7, every man according as he chooses in his heart, so let him give, not grudgingly or of necessity, for Yahweh loves cheerful giver. Again, liberality is the means for Yahweh's assembly to be financed. And it supports, it finances the ministry of Yahweh, the less fortunate, the poor, the widow, the orphan. That's liberality. That's how the assembly of Yahweh in Yeshua HaMashiach is financed, is supported. It's by voluntary donations. It's not by necessity, it's not grudgingly. It's as one purposes in their heart. Turn to Tobit. Tobit chapter 4 and verse 7. Give alms of your substance. And when you give alms, let not your eye be envious, neither turn your face from any poor. And the face of Yahweh shall not be turned away from you. If you have abundance, give alms. If you have but little, be not afraid to give according to that little. So in renewed covenant giving, or what many call new covenant giving, what is liberality? You're to judge yourself. You're to judge your situation, your circumstance, whether it's creating a budget. In renewed covenant giving, you're to first judge yourself, your basic needs. If you cannot barely fulfill your basic needs of maintaining shelter, clothing, and food, then you can rightly judge yourself not to give. For those who are able to take care of the basic needs and yet have excess, then you're to rightly judge yourself to give more. You're to judge yourself as to what you give, how often you give. For the purpose of liberality, voluntary giving is to support the ministry, is to support the less fortunate. And the less fortunate consists of the poor, of the household of faith, the widow, and the orphan. The ministry, the poor, the widow, and the orphan. That's what liberality is designed, ordained of Yahweh to support. Because according to the scripture, the laborer of Yahweh, the minister of Yahweh, is worthy of his hire. And Yahweh has said again, the minister of Yahweh has been ordained to live of the gospel, of the message. So that is the purpose of liberality or voluntary giving. Yahweh's assembly is not financed by tithes and offerings. Tithes and offerings was attached to the Levitical priesthood, connected to the Levitical priesthood. So those assemblies that seek to finance themselves by means of tithes and offerings do err, not knowing the scriptures. If you seek to bind your followers to tithes and offerings, you commit sin. For sin is the transgression of the law. And according to the law, heresy is condemned. To teach people that you finance the assembly by means of tithes and offerings is sin, is error. For that's not the apostles' doctrine. The assembly was financed by means of liberality or voluntary giving. And again, liberality or voluntary giving is one, it's as you choose in your heart. Two, is as Yahweh has prospered you. Three, is based on the law of sowing and reaping. Four, is not out of necessity or grudgingly. And five, it must be cheerful. It must be done with the motive of love for Yahweh and for his people. That is liberality. That is voluntary giving. Again, family, tithes and offerings is not the means for Yahweh's assembly to be financed or supported. That is, tithes and offerings has become man-made tradition, man-made doctrine that seeks to put people under bondage. But liberality or voluntary giving is the renewed covenant means for the assembly to be financed. And the purpose of the financing of the assembly is to support the ministry of Yahweh, the poor, the widow, the orphan. I pray Yahweh grant you an understanding in all things. I pray that Yahweh grant you wisdom to search the scriptures for yourself, to be discerning in this hour, because our adversary Satan, as a roaring lion, walks about seeking whom he may devour. So Yahweh commands us to be sober and to be watchful. We'll be sober and watchful as to not be devoured by the adversary. I pray, Yahweh, that he continue to bless my efforts by his power, his mercy, and his favor to proclaim his message as he charged me to do. I pray he bless all true and faithful ministers of his kingdom to proclaim his message as he charged them to do. And I pray he continue to raise up faithful messengers to go into his harvest, to preach and teach his word, to reap a harvest of souls. I give his name honor, glory, and praise. In the name of his beloved son, Yeshua HaMashiach, so be it, so be it. Shalom.